Alrighty, welcome to another stream of Lyrebird Edits. Just doing what I usually do at the start, which is fiddle around with all of the settings. And hopefully, everything looks just fine. I think so. Good. I'm using a new pair of headphones tonight, and the delay is slightly higher than what I'm used to, so I can hear myself a bit more than previous streams. We'll see how that goes. Hello, Outrider SG. I live. Yeah, good old living. Good old living. And I see you are currently alive too. Very nice. Congratulations on the living. My compliments on the living. Good question, Nazguula. The Sony... MDR ZX770BN. Rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? Sony are renowned for their wonderful brand names. And if, you know, X770BR doesn't stick in your head, then, well, I don't know what will. But yeah, they're good. They're Bluetooth, so, I'm not sure if people have said in the past that Bluetooth headphones aren't particularly high quality in terms of the audio. No, sorry, I'm thinking noise cancelling. These are noise cancelling too. I don't think Bluetooth... Excuse me, I don't think Bluetooth affects quality. It's the noise cancelling headphones that usually have to sacrifice a bit of quality. And on that note, I should turn it off. Yeah. I think it's just the way the technology works. But yeah, these are good. They get their job done. For now, we'll see what the day brings. It's always the unpleasant possibility that this may be our last day alive, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of weird, kind of morbid. I hope for your sake and probably everyone who's close to you that you enjoy many more days. I think that's what we all want, isn't it? Just a few more days. SteelSeries. Are they by Sony? Tell me more about your headphones. I'm always interested what people use for headphones. My other ones were Sony's before, which were really good. So... yes. Hello, Ensteming Bone. Herringbone, sorry. Herringbone, herringbone. Ah, exam study. No troubles. Enjoy your exam study. Good luck. And you can always watch the replay as well, either on Twitch or on YouTube. If you want to come back later. A morbid sort of mood. Hopefully tonight's story can appease whatever morbid nature you've got brewing there. Actually, I don't know much about the Demon of Eden. Who was I talking with over... Sorry, let me dig into my private messages for one tick. I was talking with someone else who was describing their story to me. Note to a couple of people. Emma the Ruthless. I think Emma the Ruthless. I'm yet to get back to your email message that you sent me regarding looking through a little addendum to that perspective piece we did a while back. So forgive me for doing that. I'll just have to... What am I doing? Yes, that's right. I've still got to look at that other thing you sent me, so please forgive me for not doing that. I'll get around to it soon. Yeah, it was MHQ. Make, I've replied to your message over Discord. So yep, that's good. Any other housekeeping matters? I don't think so. Oh, nice. These are your headphones. Let's have a gander. A gander at your headphones. Also, thank you, Sean, for um Sean G going through and commenting on the story that I wrote. It was called Green. Um, I've got to go back and look through the comments that you guys very helpfully put through that story as well. I've been sitting on it for a little while, and I've been thinking to myself, I'll give it some space, go back and read through all of your suggestions, and then have another crack at editing it myself off stream. Maybe even on stream, I'm not sure. But yeah, thank you so much for doing that. It's always really good to see people going through and giving their thoughts on that story. So it'll take me a little while to get around to it, like hopefully a couple of days, but I'll get there eventually. And Nazguula, they have some nice headphones. Yeah, they look good. Huh, nice. My compliments on your headphones. Hey, Coach, welcome to the stream. Good to see you. Do you have that? I saw on the link that you put into Discord that box, like a channel mixer. Did you pick that up as well, or do you just have the headphones? Yeah, it seems. Yeah, the the gaming thing. Turtle Beach was the really famous gamer gear kind of how to put this. Whenever I think of gaming headphones, I think of Turtle Beach, and whenever I think of gaming headphones, I sort of think of headphones that are a little step down in quality, in the same way that Beats had that marketing vibe to them. But then again, that's just my perception, and it's based on like 5, 6 years ago, so it's probably all changed since then. Hmm, that's pretty cool actually that you have that box. 'Cause it looks like it was used to like mix channels or do some EQ. Looks pretty cool. Oh, interesting. Were they around? Have they been around for a while, Astros? I've never heard of them. But just because I haven't heard of them doesn't mean they're good. Doesn't mean they're not good just because I haven't heard of them. Yep, that's what I meant. Can I even get them in my country? Oh yeah. Yep, we can get them. Neat. I think as long as you get like a good lifespan out of the use of headphones too. One of the things about headphones that I find is that I churn through them. I spend a good year maybe with a pair of headphones and then they just break. So for me, if I can get the quality and the longevity in a headphone, that's what I'm after. Me too, Zekoj. Yeah, I break them, and I'm not a violent, clumsy person, but I just find myself breaking them. Like, um, if you've been noticing in a lot of the streams I do, I always keep the left cup on and the right cup off, and I partly do that so I can hear myself, but it's also because of this earpad having fallen off this pair of headphones. So, yeah. And I don't know how I did it either. I didn't drop it, I didn't do anything. Oh, 5 years. I'm jealous. Wish I had a pair of headphones that lasted that long. Hmm. Hmm. It just seems like there's no real sturdiness to them, is there? It's yeah, but maybe that's a reflection on us as human beings. Yes. Alrighty, well, without further ado, I'll zoom in a bit so that people who are watching on mobile don't have to squint. I will drag that over so it's nice and symmetrical. Wait, no, not symmetrical. It just lines up like the box Here, other finger. Here, there. It's like the perfect triangle. Square. Mm. Words are hard. I don't know what's happening with my brain. Yeah, I wonder if it's like the pressure point on a wine bottle. Or maybe it's like engineered obsolescence, so they're designed to break, so you go out and buy more. Very cynical marketing. Alrighty. Hey, Liberta. 114. Good to see you again. Yes, a new look, mainly with the headphones, I think. These guys. Also, if they run out of battery, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'll go back to the other headphones. I'm gonna plug them in now, and that way, if I have to jump off of these, I don't have to close Discord. Bye. I good. I can imagine like in an hour and a half, these run out of battery. They're gonna run out of battery, and I just know it. Place your bets. When am I gonna run out of battery on my headphones? It's now 9:20. I reckon by 10:30 they'll run out. 10:31 is when they'll run out. Hmm. It's just as what they do in cars though, because oh, I'm thinking the basic plastic around the rims of cars. They're very flexible metal. If they don't bend, then the people inside do. Yes, headphones, nice. Yes, how have you been, Liberta? And how have you been everyone else? Please give me your thoughts and feelings. Hmm. Good. While you're placing bets, let's dive in. So this is the Demon of Eden, um, by Nazguula. Nazguula, yours truly, there, on my chat box, right there. So we're going to be working through your story. Now, I may have asked you for a... Cool. I don't know anything about your story, which is good. I like going in blind. Sometimes people give me like a little synopsis or just like a one sentence description of what it's about. I was just double checking to see if I'd read that before. However, I'm going in blind. But if you want to give like a little blurb that you can place here, up to you. Otherwise, without further ado, I've said that for the second time tonight. Now I mean it. Let's read it. "6 months after my daughter died, I escaped to the isolated West Virginia mountains, a place the world had forgotten. Every trip, my husband Hugh and I would pick a new mountain range to hike. We believed that starting things off on unknown ground would bring us good luck in the next year. I wasn't always sure it would work. If anything, the past 6 months was evidence that it didn't. But I needed to feel like it could be true this time. This trip was solemn, the silence suspended in the light that poured through the leaves rustling in the bitter breeze. Being around Hugh was a burden now. I wanted to give my love to him, like I wanted nothing else. I longed to feel comfort in his embrace. I was desperate to feel his touch, but there was nothing left, an emptiness that filled the world, leaving no room for the love we once shared. After living long enough with the sting of denial, Hugh grew reserved and aloof. I hoped that the familiarity of the forest would draw us back together. As Hugh and I ascended to the peak, we peered into the snow-capped trees of the sprawling valley beyond. With laboured breath, I drew in crisp air like glass in my lungs. The pain was welcome, refreshing the deepest parts of me. "This is where we usually stop. Do you mind if we chill out for a minute?" Hugh asked, taking out his water bottle. "Yeah, sure," I said, sitting down next to him on a damp boulder. Slipping my hair behind my ears, I worked my fingers through, finding the thin grey strands and separating them from the blonde. yanking them out of my scalp. At 26 years old, I was going grey. While I stared off into the trees, watching the way the light cascaded through the leaves, something caught my eye. A figure in the distance, standing behind the trunk of a pine. I turned to Hugh and shook his arm, pointing toward the tree line. Give me 1 second, I just want to make a little note here. Do you see that? There shouldn't have been anyone out there, as wandering off the beaten path was dangerous. Unseen bluffs and bobcats had a way of creeping up on you out there. No, I don't see anything, Hugh replied, looking confused. I walked across the pathway to see the thing more clearly. There's someone over there, I insisted. It was definitely a man. I took off into the brush. Hey, wait, Hugh called after me. I kept my eye on the man behind the tree, who didn't move as I grew closer to him. I wasn't sure why I felt the need to chase him down, but something drove me forward against my will. As I swept past the trees, the ground was a distant concern. My feet found a ledge. I felt my ankle roll as I fell forward. The dirt met my face, knocking the wind from my lungs. My ribs ached, and my leg was searing with pain. I tried to scream, but my lungs were frozen, capturing the shriek and turning it into a raspy groan. I looked back to see my calf draping over a protruding tree root and the sickening angle making me gag. Are you okay? Hugh yelled, finally catching up to me. No, I'm not okay, I panted, swatting his hand away. We need to get help. I don't know if anyone is here, really. It has to be a ranger or something, I said, throwing my head back in exasperation. He looked at the dirt, scrunching up his face with thought. I'll carry you back to the car. I sighed. He studied me for a moment, then bent down to scoop me up. He'd been carrying me for 15 minutes before something caught his eye and we came to a sudden stop. What are you doing? Do you see that? He asked, his eyes squinted as he stared off to the right of us. I looked, but saw nothing. No, I said, impatient to get back to the car. The light's over there, he said, veering off the path. As he jogged through the bushes, I flashed back to the shadow I had seen before I fell, and I felt leery of chasing after mysterious lights. I wanted to tell Hugh to stop, but I didn't have much say in the matter as he was carrying me. We passed through thick forest, and soon we came upon a clearing in the forest, revealing a sign that read, Welcome to Letterford. We're going to stop there. This is a place where we're going to demark our first little section of... I don't know why I said demark. I could have just said mark. Mark out the first 700 words. Good, I think that's a good chunk to work with. Ooh. Okay, first impressions, very fluid. All of the ideas flow really neatly together as well, which is nice. I think the strongest part is this paragraph here, which really caught my attention. I think we had a discussion on Discord about... I think it was you, Nazguula, who was talking about whether or not you wanted to superimpose the experience that a character was having with the memories that a character was having, woven together so that they were kind of happening simultaneously. I don't remember if it was you who was saying that. That was you, good. This is a paragraph where I think you can very easily weave in some motion alongside your character telling the reader how they feel. There's a way that you can work those two together in such a way where it reads as though characters are moving from A to B, but at the same time you get a sense of their emotional state as well. So that's motion motion and emotion, if you like to think about it. And how you do that is ground this scene in a physicality. You want to demonstrate how Ellie is feeling in such a way that it also influences the descriptions of where characters are and where they are in relation to each other. Let's actually work on this paragraph first. This trip was solemn, the silence suspended in the light that poured through the leaves, rustling in the bitter breeze. I'd suggest there are two things happening in this metaphor. The silence suspended in the light that poured through the leaves is really nice. Rustling in the bitter breeze is the second kind of adjunct image that we're going for here. It's kind of hedging it both ways. In some ways it's clever that this, like I'll highlight it for you. That's all yellow. Don't worry about poured. That was just me making a note for myself a bit later. So if you imagine that blue is a shared portion between the first part and also the second part as well. So it's kind of like the center point between two different ideas. The trip was solemn, the silence suspended in the light that poured through the leaves, rustling in the bitter breeze. This could also be, this trip was solemn, with the leaves dancing on their branches, rustling in the bitter breeze. Something like that. That would be this instead of this. I suggest picking one of these and sticking with them. I'll let you choose. Here I suggest... Actually, do I really need to write comments? You're here with me now. Maybe I can just talk about it instead and write over it. So yeah, just reiterating, you need to, I think, pick one. Now, there's a reason why I'm suggesting this, and that's because I think shortening the metaphor or the image can really help solidify what you're going for here in terms of just delivering a clear sense of the emotion you're trying to convey. Okay, cool. I'll write it down then. Good. I agree. I think the first one is really nice and self-contained. So here I think we should go with one of the two images presented, yellow blue or blue purple. Right now it's a little too long and it tries to do two things at once and does both at 50% capacity. Wherever possible, I think it's always better to pick a strong image that's shorter and run with that. Being around Hugh is a burden now. Good. Like, this is a nice... It's a statement where you declare a factor that's then going to influence how your reader sees the following lines. So often in the show versus tell debate that we talk about, there's a tendency to look at sentences like this and outright say, oh no, get rid of it, just demonstrate it, just show it. But I think there's actually value in having a sentence where you just prime the reader you say, okay, here's what you're going to experience over the course of this paragraph, and then you push it through. It's a bit like a topic sentence in an English essay. It doesn't have to be the most beautiful piece of writing. It just needs to help you get your head into the frame of mind of the writer from the reader's perspective. So I think this is good. Now, a lot of these sentences start with I. I wanted to give. I longed. I was desperate. This is the one where it doesn't start with I. Good. And then we go back to I. I hoped. In addition to being concise about the types of images that we want to show, it's also really good to think about how we structure our sentences. It's always good to try and not make your sentences start with too many I's. It's not like you have to go through and purge your entire story of I's. It's just that if you do it over and over and over and over again, without reason to. So for example, if you're trying to write a paragraph that's short and emotionally drained, you write something like, I'd had enough. I wanted so desperately for this to work. I wanted this to be the vacation where everything was okay. I thought Hugh would be on my side too. You could do it, but I suggest making your sentences very short and bitter and concise. The longer they are and the more ideas they introduce, the more we crave a sentence like this, which is a two-phraser separated by a comma. So just keep that in mind. And just give me 1 second to change a setting. Alrighty. How is that? That's a bit better. Good. Hmm. Yeah, I think that's wise words, Outrider SG. If and when you tell in a story, you make it. Oops, excuse me. Make it count. Make it a really good tell. I'm 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 all about a good tell. I think they have a time and a place in a story. Mm. This, yeah, it's really funny when I do this sometimes too. I was writing a story recently where it's told from the perspective of a child, and I was consciously trying to do sentences that start with eyes in a way that is quite fluid and doesn't look like it's an author error. Um, because if you can justify why you do it, then I think that there are reasons. Repetitions of I've said in previous edits, is something that you need to be careful of because it looks like it's thick writing. It needs to be kind of, no, not thick. It's just not, because of its repetitive nature, it tends to weigh down the story. But there are times where you can use it repetitively to good effect. It's one of those weird things where you have to really be conscious of how you're using it. It's like using a very strong color when you're painting. It's noticeable if you don't use it well, and if you use it well, it's quite strong. But you need to use it well. And if you don't use it intentionally, if it's just, oh, that's how I wrote it, then it's best to reconfigure it. But the reason why I haven't gone in and chopped out these sentences and reworked them to sort of demonstrate that is because I want to talk about what this paragraph is doing. Being around here is a burden now. Ah, thank you. I was trying to think of a way to put it into less academic, less sort of theoretical words. Hmm. Hmm, that's good. Um, what Liberta said. It's good that it came off that way as well, rather than being like a repetitive slog. It actually worked for Liberta as a reader, so that's really good to know actually. With that in mind, let's read through what it's conveying. Being around you is a burden now. I wanted to give my love to him like I wanted nothing else. Is a really interesting line. Great line. You can keep this line, but I'd also like to see it demonstrated like this. Being around Hugh was a burden now. I wanted to give him my love like I wanted nothing else. Yet I felt the distance growing between us every day. Even now, I, I felt it. I felt it yawn. Oops. Excuse me. This is a suggestion. Yeah. Hmm. That's an interesting perspective. I only got the emotional side of it, but I suppose literally it could also be sexual too, which could imply that they're not, physically comfortable with each other anymore. What do you, um, I think I'm off your wavelength here. Sorry. What do you mean by in the moment? Uh, is it in relation to this? What I just typed out? Um, yep, yep. No, I think I understand what you mean. Yeah, this is what I wanted to suggest to you in Discord and tonight with the story. I'm really glad that we actually that you brought that up in Discord and that we have a chance to actually talk about it. Um, because when I joined in on the Discord chat, it was like 50 plus messages ahead, and I didn't want to be like, hey, let's take it back all the way up here. No one likes that guy in Discord who's like, hey, you guys were talking about this several hours ago. Let me rehash this. I'm totally fine if people want to do that, by the way. I'm self conscious. Being around here was a burden now. I wanted to give my love to him like I wanted nothing else. Yep, so you can keep that. Yet I felt the distance growing between us every day, which is another declarative statement. Even now, I felt it yawn wide this chasm, here ahead of me, striding along the path as if solo, as if walking towards some far point in the distance. That meant that he could find his peace away from me. On he walked, so determined, so quick. All I wanted then was to rush forward and take his hand, to hold him back. I was desperate to feel his touch, but there was nothing left. An emptiness that filled the world, leaving no room for the love we once shared. I really recommend weaving together the present and the emotional in a networked kind of state. And it's really easy to do. You declare the emotion and then you demonstrate how right here, right now in the story, it's happening. Um, In the future, I will actually, yeah, because I was going to suggest something like this. I love trying to write like this personally. This is what I aim for in terms of if you're writing a story where this can work, where you have a narrator who's comfortable with declaring a fact and then demonstrating it through a present scene. Yes, good. That's what we want. Life-changing advice. Yeah. It's like eat, pray, and love, but for writing, and it's just write, write, and write. I don't think anyone would read that book. If you like, you made a satire of eat, pray, and love, but it's just writing, and every chapter is about writing, and every word is just writing. Yeah. I don't know what I was going for then. I'm sorry with my little tangent. But yes, good. Glad to help out. Is what I was going for. You'd read it? Okay. Hey, I've got 3 readers. Great. Maybe we can all co-author it. We can share in the um we can share in the royalties. Good. Steal away. Please feel free to steal. Hey, four. Hello, Killer Taken. Getting in on the action. You joined us at a good time. You've come in at the ground level of what I'm sure will be a multi-million-dollar franchise for us. It's just, yeah, I'm not sure how we're gonna make money off of this, but hey, we'll see how we go. I have white chocolate. Where's my white chocolate? Are you talking about me? I hope not. That's creepy. I wish I had white chocolate. I actually don't like very white chocolate very much. Oh, you very forward. Oh dear. We're not talking about 10k. We're not mentioning that, Sekoj. We're not mentioning that at all. I think this suggestion here brings together the best of both worlds with what we were talking about up here. And you can continue this on in subsequent paragraphs too. You don't have to limit it just to a one shot. Be mindful though that not every paragraph can be structured like this. If you structure every paragraph with emotional state, present state, emotional state, you make it like a sandwich over and over again, it becomes a bit tiring to read because the formula is predictable. What you want to do is ground your scene like this and then push forward into the drive of the narrative. We've established the emotional state behind the players. Now it's important for us to get more of the story, get our teeth around what this story is actually about. And on that note, let's go back to the very start. 6 months after my daughter died, I escaped to the isolated West Virginia mountains, a place the world had forgotten. Now, regular viewers, you guys know me. I love a good run-on sentence. I love them. I can't get enough of run-on sentences, but sometimes they don't work. This is one of those times where I recommend getting rid of a run-on sentence, especially because it's the first thing your reader will see. Run-on sentences are usually just served by getting rid of the full stop and replacing it with a colon or a comma. And here a colon works quite well. Wait, white? Ah, did you think a comma would be good? Yep. I'm just as happy to see a comma there. It's your choice. And yes, white chocolate I don't like. It's just it defeats the purpose of having chocolate. You might as well just get milk and sugar and drink that. I think if you're gonna have chocolate, it needs to have, you know, cocoa inside it. Hmm. Cadbury released this chocolate that was like It was dark chocolate, but it was smooth like milk chocolate, and it had a bit of, I don't think it had white chocolate in it, but it was this very nice, very rich quality Cadbury Dairy milk chocolate, and so affordable too. Just good all around. That's Cadbury, by the way, who aren't sponsoring me at all. No, not at all. Um, no, wow, that's I've never really met someone who doesn't like chocolate. Like not even regular chocolate. Eh, to each their own. To each their own. Every trip, my husband Hugh and I. Okay, this is one of those funny comma things where the the positions of the comma actually change the meaning of the sentence completely. Compare this. Every trip, my husband, Hugh, and I always went out together. This implies that there are three of you. My husband, Hugh, and I. Now, this is an Oxford comma thing. My husband, Hugh, and I, also three people. If you want to get into a pointless debate with people on the internet, and I know you will do, Google the Oxford comma and get prepared to just be annoyed that nobody agrees with your thing. It's like, how do you pronounce GIF? Is it GIF or is it wrong? It's just like that. It's GIF, obviously, or giraffe. But this case here, we need to get rid of the commas. My husband Hugh and I, and if you get rid of the commas, it's my husband Hugh and I. There are two people there. Oh, yes, okay, you know about the Oxford comma. Good, good, good. Um, that's a funny one too. I was thinking that every trip, my husband Hugh, comma, and I would pick up a new mountain range to hike. I don't think it is, unfortunately. Hmm. I'm with you, Rider SG. Who would pronounce GIF with a J sound? It's a G sound, like a gorilla. Um, I know what you mean, Nazguula, about like I think that's okay. I don't think you need commas there. Likewise, if I saw... No, that doesn't look right without the commas. However, every trip, my husband Hugh and I would pick up a new mountain. That's okay. Which means that the thing that's tripping me is the and. I'm not entirely sure on this one. I'm gonna put a question mark around it. This is a... Sorry, I've kind of hit the bottom of my knowledge there. Let's put that into Discord. I don't know. The solution to this is to just reconfigure the sentence. So for each trip, Hugh and I would always pick a new mountain range to hike. So in that case, get rid of my husband. So Hugh and I would always pick a new mountain range to hike. That way, though, you get rid of the my husband, but I think we can imply that later on. That's what I'd suggest. I'd suggest getting rid of my husband. Oops, I've been missing important discussions about GIFs. I like Sekoj's, unless you're the creator of GIF and you say it's GIF, but he's a monster who should be ignored. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I'm sure he's a lovely person, but why wouldn't he just made it JIF then, right? I don't know. GIF is peanut butter. I'm not, I'm, hmm. Just with Liberta's 114 suggestion with my husband Hugh, comma, and I. It seems like it's a list item. I'm not sure about that. You may be right though. I'm a bit in the dark here. Yeah, I think this is the best solution is to just work around it. Um, we started. We believe that starting things off on unknown ground would bring us good luck in the next year. I wasn't always sure it would work. If anything, the past 6 months was evidence that it didn't. But I needed to feel like it could be true this time. Yeah, that's fine. I don't think there's anything we need to worry about there. I think we can justify separating these two out into separate paragraphs. As you and I ascended to the peak, we peered into the snow-capped trees of the sprawling valley beyond. With laboured breath, I drew in crisp air like glass in my lungs. Pain was welcome, refreshing the deepest parts of me. So, I'm going to suggest this a lot in this stream, but whenever you see your dialogue tags at the end, pick them up and put them at the front. Um, there's almost very little that you lose from taking this dialogue explanation from the back and putting it at the front. Hugh asked, taking out his water bottle, or taking out his water bottle, Hugh asked, do you mind if we chill out for a minute? I'm going to reconfigure this sentence here. This is where we usually stop, contradicts this idea of a new mountain range. So if they're going to a new mountain range to hike at, then they wouldn't have a usual location to stop at. So maybe what I think you mean is something like we usually stop after an hour or so into the hike. Yeah, sure, I said. So back-ending dialogue usually works for really short snippets. So here, I think it's okay. Yeah, sure, comma. I said, comma, sitting down next to him on a damp boulder, slipping my head behind my ears. I worked my fingers through, finding the thin grey strands and separating them from the blonde, yanking them out of my scalp. $36 going grey. I'd compress that into a single paragraph. While I stared off into the trees, watching the way the light cascaded through the leaves, I made a note here about, we've got poured and cascaded. So I'd recommend replacing this word with like washed or something. It doesn't really solve my problem though, which is that you've got a pour here and you've got another liquid metaphor here. So maybe scrambled, screamed, bounced. Think of something that doesn't evoke the same image as last time. Think of another... when you wrote poured through the leaves. Sometimes it's good to repeat images, and other times I think we want like a fresh image. We already know that the light's doing things through the leaves. We need a bit more, I guess, general description as to what's around them. Sean, when was this? I think unexplored works better than unknown. Hmm. I'll let Nazguula take that one. I'm 50-50. Oh really? Oh, interesting. Well, welcome to the other side of the mirror. This is a topsy-turvy world where stuff comes before the dialogue. I didn't ream you. Maybe a little bit. Yeah, I noticed that. I'm just gonna chalk this down to premature graying, which I thought was a really nice touch, rather than you actually thinking that everyone over 25 goes grey. I don't have any grey hair yet. Touch wood. Nothing is wood. Oh, that's wood. Yeah, no grey hair for me. Premature grey. Cool. That's what I assumed it was. Yeah. Why am I still sore? We'll have plenty more opportunity to remit into Nazgula as well. I'll make sure every time we'll we'll talk about the dialogue tags. So I think I'm a distance thing. Okay. While I stood in the trees watching the wave of light X, something caught my eye. A figure of a distance standing behind the trunk of a pine. I turned to Hugh and shook his arm, pointing towards the tree line. Do you notice something about each of these sentences here? Um, each sentence is a phrase one, phrase two, phrase one, phrase two, phrase one, phrase two. I turned into this, then that happened. I noticed this, then this, then this. Um, yeah, in the same way that if you write a whole paragraph with eyes, which was this one, your readers will also notice the phase one, phase two sentences. I think the trick then to keep it fresh um is to vary your sentence length. Um and this is a really good opportunity to tie into another thing I wanted to talk about, this little section here. This is a point at which something important happens for the story. You are allowed to slow the pace down and focus in on it. While I stared off into the trees, watching the wave of light cascaded through the leaves, something caught my eye. Actually, sorry, in your defense, this is a three phrase sentence, so I take back what I said before about it all being the same. Um, so add more to the sentence. No, to these sentences here. Add more. Slow the pace down. You can slow the pace down one of two ways. You put short phrases in or short sentences in, or you just elaborate on something that doesn't really have any sort of motion to it. So right here we've got more descriptions of how she's focusing down on what she's after. So it really slows the pace down. Do you see that? There shouldn't have been anyone out there, as wandering off the beaten path was dangerous. I consider explaining this as its own separate sentence. There shouldn't have been anyone out there. Um, you'd have to have been... You would have needed to have been blind. As wandering off the beaten path was dangerous is a very school mistressy kind of sentence. It's sort of... Rather, I think you can convey the same idea in something like this. You need to be a blind man not to notice all those warning signs that the ranger's hut on the way in. Wandering in these parts could get you killed, apparently. You don't have to use this, but what I'd like to see in the place of this statement here is something that demonstrates this knowledge in another way. Ellie could also relay a concern about a story she heard about these parts. We need more information as to why this shadowy figure is here and why Ellie has so much concern about it. Right now, it feels a bit quick. She sees this figure and she's like, "Oh, what's that? Do you see anything? No. Oh, it's over there. I'm gonna go and chase it." But the only explanation we really get for it is that she feels like she's being driven against her will to go to this shadow. But the way in which it's written here is a bit slippery because I don't really get the sense before that Ellie was fixated on this thing. She didn't explain her intention before the action. So part of the reason why I want more detail and I want it to be slower is because when we finally get to the "Why are you doing this, Ellie?" the reader has an intuitive sense that, okay, something a bit weird is happening here. It's a bit mysterious, it's a bit unusual. Adding more detail as to why that's the case would really help your reader, I think. Unseen bluffs and bobcats had a way of creeping up on you out here. Sorry, I completely missed this sentence. So like you can put this back here and replace one of these sentences. But this is good. Either one. Now, one real disadvantage that I haven't reamed into Outrider SG, and I haven't really actually talked about dialogue tagging in the back, is that the longer you leave a question open that isn't answered in this dialogue here, when you thrust your reader back into the dialogue tree, they're going to have a bit of a hard time remembering what this was because they've just had 3 or 4 sentences between that time. So one easy way to do that is to not have your dialogue tag at the back and have it at the front. You No, I don't see anything. Here I want more about... Is Ellie growing more frustrated? We need a We need a little ramp up. We need a little ramp up in the emotional intensity to underscore the mystery of why Ellie is drawn to seek out this mysterious figure. So, in regards to that, you can demonstrate that she's getting frustrated. Or some emotion that conveys her wanting to track this figure down. I walked across the pathway to see the thing more clearly. Why? Is it making her feel upset? Is it making her feel anxious? Does she feel like it's familiar in some way that she can't quite place? Like a memory that's slowly slipping from the edge of your mind. A dream that you desperately want to hold on to despite the fact that it's, like, falling apart as you wake up. Something like that kind of feeling. Is that what she's experiencing? If yes, then tell us, or demonstrate it to us. There's someone over there, I insisted. It was definitely a man. I took off for the brush. You can keep your dialogue tag at the back here, it's fine, because it's so short. Hey, wait up, Hugh called after me. Hugh called after me, hey, wait up! But there's literally no downside to putting it at front. There's no real good reason why back-ending dialogue works. I always suggest putting it at the front, but I'm not gonna make it an absolute rule. I'll just question you every time you do it. No, look, with functional statements like this, it's 50-50 either way, but I just wanted to demonstrate how in this case you can put it either way. And in most cases, front just looks better. I'll demonstrate again why I make such a big point about this. Here's a really good demonstration of the weakness in back-ending dialogue tags. Just read it in your head, and you'll understand intuitively what's wrong with these two sentences here. This is fine, I think, in terms of what it's trying to describe, but the more you get your character to say something, the less justified it is to have a modifier to their speech, because you get through here and in your mind's eye you're constructing an image where your characters are doing this, right? But if you get to the end and it's like, oh wait, he was screaming? Okay, right. You don't want to make your reader do that. It's a very quick way to frustrate your reader. Yeah. Good. Glad I made it clearer. Like, this is the worst case scenario for back-ending dialogue tags, but yeah, just wanted to clear that up. Now, our writer SG raises an interesting point here about the balance between having a fast-paced story and a story that fails to leave an emotional impression. What fast-paced stories do really well is that they sweep you along in something that's exciting. And in so doing, they help the reader to construct something in their minds that runs a bit like a movie. It's exciting what's happening. It's pushing the story along at a fantastic speed and a lot's happening, but really in stories, I think that this works best once you've laid a soft groundwork to justify the fast-paced nature of those scenes. Because if you don't strike the balance between excitement and emotions, sensations, or impressions, if you start off your story with really exciting stuff, like fast-paced stuff, your reader's probably going to have a bit of a hard time empathizing with why they should care about what's going on. You can start off your story in an exciting way, but slow-paced, like a suspenseful thing, like somebody hiding inside. I lost it. Don't know where it is. It's Leviathan Wakes, which is a sci-fi genre book that's been. I don't know when it was published. But Leviathan Wakes begins with one of the characters on board a spaceship, and they're hiding inside a locker. Everyone on the ship is being slaughtered, I think, by pirates or bandits, and they're hiding in this locker, hoping that they don't get killed. It's a very exciting opening to a book, and it's quite slow paced too. So, they're hiding inside this cup. Where is that book? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I was hoping to hold it up in front of the camera. Regardless, is that the book that turned into the Expanse? Is it the same book? Maybe. I think it became a TV series or a movie or something. And I hear good things about the Expanse, so I'll have to watch it. Regardless, before I get too swept out of my focus, a really good tip to avoid this balance, this conflict between making your story fast versus making it impressionable, is to have one solid paragraph where you spend a good amount of time, slow time, establishing the scene, establishing where the characters are, and setting the stage for your fast action to take place later on. So, for instance, in this story, if you wanted to then launch your character off into the forest to chase down this shadow, I need more of an impression of where they are. Right now we've got sitting down on a damp boulder, I slit my hair and I'm going grey. Here would be an great opportunity to extend Right, now no one likes filler. But what I mean, something that grounds the scene and helps what the mood is like. Basically the atmosphere. Don't strictly think of it as filler. Think of it as grounding. Something that paints the scene and helps to underscore where they are, what kind of emotional state they're in. Basically paint the atmosphere. And that means that the more of this you do, the more justification that you can give to a reader to be like, okay, you've got a good image in your mind? Good. Now I'm going to do something a bit weird. Over there, Ellie sees a shadow. She doesn't know why. She feels it sort of calling to her. If you don't spend time building up that slow burn of the backing detail, it becomes a bit thin, I suppose. In the same way that what Outrider SG is talking about. I'm losing my voice. Do you mind if I go and get some water? I'm gonna go and get some water. I need some water. Alright, I'm back with water and I'm not dying. Right, that's right. Yeah. Good. Yep. It's the same thing. Yep. Yes, I should watch it. And I should finish reading that story. No! No! Bad Outrider SG. Front end the dialogue tag. Front end it. I don't mind if you. I do mind because you. How do you know he's croaking until the very end? I don't know. I don't know. Yep. So with that all done and dusted, let's push forward. Let's push forward. I'm actually very impressed with that. It means you're paying attention, which is good. I kept my eye on the man behind the tree who didn't move. This, I think, strictly means the tree didn't move. No, no, you're correct. I kept my eye on the man behind the tree who didn't move as I grew closer to him. Um, that's correct. If it was the tree that didn't move, that would be the tree that didn't move. Um, the who refers to the man, I think. Yeah, I think that's right. Um, yep, it was definitely a man I took off into the brush. Here, I want you to lay the groundwork for the purple section below. This. I wasn't sure why I felt the need to chase him down, but something drove me forward against my will. Is the declaration of the motive, which is fine. It's good to declare the motive. You need to prime the reader for this reaction. No, you need to prime the reader for this reaction. I discussed that a bit before, but I just want to make it solidify inside the reader's mind why this feels a bit mysterious. Yes, very good. Well done. Doesn't that create a nice mental image? It primes you so clearly to picture what's happening, and then you attach a modifier to the speech, and I know exactly what that looks like. Yes. So good. So good. I kept my eye on the man behind the tree. We didn't move as I got closer. Yep, it was definitely a man, so we've now resolved him as a man. Spend some time elaborating. Give us a bit more detail. What? Why does she run in? Is what I want. Familiarity, maybe? That's your call. But this is a good opportunity to put it in right here in this section. Here, it was definitely a man I took off into the brush. As I swept past the trees, the ground was a distant concern. My feet found a ledge, and I felt my ankle roll as I fell forward. The dirt met my face, knocking the wind from my lungs. My ribs ached and my leg was searing with pain. I tried to scream, but my lungs were frozen, capturing the shriek and turning it into a raspy groan. I looked back to see my calf draping over a protruding tree rock. The two ings here, I think, conflict a little bit. Can I just suggest bent? Bent over a protruding tree rock. Even protruding tree root is a bit excessive because if it's bent over it, it has to be protruding to begin with. I recommend getting rid of protruding. The Sydney angle made me gag. Mm. Trouble putting the full stop there, though, as I've suggested, is but it removes the. Yeah. Um, that's another note here about the two phase sentences. The don't make my face knocking me, my robes ached. I tried to scream lungs are frozen, capturing freak nears and grown. I look back. Yep, so it's very 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. Um, I want a sentence here describing her emotional state. Her sense of self-awareness as she bush bashes a shadow. What is she thinking? And then you can have this kind of narrator talking about the past tense, you know, and as you can imagine, I tripped and fell. This is quite a few sentences to describe tripping and falling. The detail that you pay your attention to falling over here is the kind of detail that you should be putting into the emotional state as well. So it's kind of flipped around. In fact, if you made tripping over and hurting her leg this long, and the justification for what she's doing that long, that'd make me happier. That would make the reader more in tune with what you're trying to convey. Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion actually, but don't rose up to me in my face. You have a shadow of his junk. Aussie mumbo jumbo. Yeah, sorry, that's an Australianism. It's just bashing through the bush. It's a bush bash, you know. Where did I write that? Oh yeah, bush bash. Yeah, it's terrifying. Bush bashing. I did it in high school a couple of times. It's just the getting lost in an Australian bushland is scary because it gets cold at night. We've got it built into our psyches that it's kind of like a death zone. Um, I was on a camp with a proper backpack and like several days of food supplies, but even so, it's pretty unpleasant. I didn't have a working compass either. Anyway, that's a story for another time. We get eaten by a kangaroo. Only if they're hungry. And only if like the giant spiders don't get to you first. They've got they've got dibs on the humans basically, and the kangaroos are like vultures. They come and get the scraps. Or at least kicked. Are you okay? Hugh yelled, finally catching up to me. No, I'm not okay, I panted, swatting his hand away. You need to get help. Um, Another reason I suggest not putting the dialogue tag at the back is it, in all seriousness, no, in all seriousness, when you have two sets of dialogue that have the same tag dialogue in the same order, it looks a bit unusual. No, I'm not okay. You need to go get help. This, to me, is a lot more fluid than... being both back to back. I don't know if anyone is here really. There has to be a ranger or something. I said, throwing my head back in exasperation. That's okay. But you can't have an exclamation mark there. Strictly speaking, you can't really have either of these with a Hugh yelled finally catching up to me. But look, I think the convention's changed recently, and I don't think people are too fussed with this inside a dialogue. But because It's about being consistent though, isn't it? Yeah, get rid of them. Or front-ending your dialogue tag, and then you don't have to worry about... Yeah, it's like reason number 7 or 8 why front-ending your dialogue tag is good. But you're finally catching up to me. Are you okay? But then, we got the same problem as what we had before. So I think we can just replace it with a comma. Which is unfortunate, because that looks okay. But I think maybe in order of consistency we need to get rid of these. Sometimes back-end dialogue has its place though, like, you can mix it up a little bit. I wonder if we should front-end the dialogue tag. It's a difficult thing for me to answer, because you know how impartial I am. You know how indifferent I am on this issue. I have nothing against either front or back-end dialogue tags. It's just that front-end dialogue tags are objectively better. But no, in this case here, I think you can have it in the back. It's fine. Throwing my head back on his aspiration, Hugh looked at the dirt, scrunching his face up and thought, "I'll carry you back to the car." I sighed. Hugh studied me for a moment, then bent down to scoop me up. He'd been carrying me for 15 minutes before something caught his eye, and we came to a sudden stop. So quite a lot of time passes here. What are you doing? Or, what are you doing? I murmured into his ear. It's fine. Do you see that? He asked. His eyes squinting as he stared off to the right of us. I looked but saw nothing. No? No, I said, impatient to get back to the car. So we've got quite a few dialogue, he said, doing this. It's here that I put in. So just be mindful of how it looks if you have a repetitive dialogue element. There's lights over there. And with that, now, this is a funny thing for him to do, to jog through the bushes, carrying his wife on his back. I mean, he must be ripped. I couldn't carry my girlfriend on my back. That's not a... it's not a... It's me being weak. I'm a weak, soft human being. My girlfriend's very short, so I should be able to carry her, but I spend all day in front of a computer, so my muscles are understandably not very well suited to carrying people. Why am I justifying this? Anyway, Hugh is obviously ripped. Is where I'm going for this, to be able to jog through the bushes. So, what I want to see here instead of maybe jogging through the bushes is like careen, or another word that implies a bit of an unsteady jog. Oh, sorry, I missed this too. Not serious since the motive. I hope it's not bad, because I do it an awful lot too. Um, in terms of front-ending dialogues. Let me go find the book. Hang on. I'm suddenly very self-conscious about this. Um, it's out of battery. What time is it? 10:33. I was 2 minutes off. 2 minutes. Wow. Wow. Okay, give me a sec to change over my headphones. Alrighty. Oh, I can't hear myself. Nice. Very good. Hopefully OBS will be able to give me a little hand here. Can you guys hear me? Yes? Let me know if you can hear me. I might just do a stream without headphones. Give me a thumbs up. Yep, you can hear me. Good, excellent. Yeah. I was 2 minutes off. Wow. Wow, weird. Unfortunately, we can hear you. Good. Good banter. Um, Sean is obviously ripped. I'm just going through your comments here. Um, yeah, I just had a feeling that they ran out. This is in response to Sekoj saying, this is why I hate wireless anything. Latency also got to me a little bit as well. The school said, yeah, but you can pee and talk. True, you can. Um, I'm probably not game enough to try that though. Good. Alrighty. I'd laugh if you actually couldn't, and I spend the next 50 minutes talking to myself, and everyone's just here like putting me on mute or something, and they come back and someone's like, "Hey, should we tell him he's just talking to himself and no one can hear him?" But you guys wouldn't do that to me, right? You wouldn't do that to me. You wouldn't do that to me? Um, Before I went over to I was just getting a book off the shelf, looking at how other people just do dialogue. Um, Seems like a lot of authors will also try to not use dialogue tags at all. So it's a fair joke for next time, isn't it? So instead of leading in to dialogue with Hugh does this, comma, panting, comma, dialogue. Usually it's just Hugh shields his vision from the sunlight, looking deep into the forest. He grunts, and I suspect he he doesn't believe me when I says that I see something. Full stop. Hugh says something in like Ellie, I think you're going insane. Full stop. New paragraph. Ellie thinks to herself. So, if you don't want to even use dialogue tags, that's a very valid choice, and it seems like that's actually the sort of more modern approach, is just to cut them out completely. I find that if I use dialogue tags to bleed in from narrative into dialogue, or to prep the reader for a very specific type of voice that I want them to imagine as it happens. Yeah, and I think that's a good point too. Fictitious raises here. Also, hey, welcome to the stream. Um, it depends on the flow of it, which I think is really important. Sometimes it's good to have that's almost seamless approach where you're describing action and then it bleeds into dialogue very seamlessly. And other times it's just good to have it sort of cut there. Um, hmm. Yeah, I think that's actually a really good suggestion. It's difficult to suggest a point in this here where you can mix it up because very um not an awful lot of action has happened, but perhaps when Hugh and Ellie first see the man and they're deciding whether or not it's a man, what she should do. So, for example, here, if you get rid of I insisted and just put full stop, it was definitely a man. I took off into the brush. So if you get rid of a dialogue tag, there are very little changes because you still get the impression that she's insisting, or at least very strongly thinking it. Good. Let's push on. Let's push on. Yeah. So I think the takeaway from all of the dialogue chat is to have a think about how you can mix up dialogue tags in terms of if they need to be at the back, if putting them at the front is more conducive to the story, and even getting rid of them as well can help. So then I got up to here and I that's right. So as Hugh careened through the bushes with his unsteady pace, that's my suggestions here are kind of placeholder. Maybe just careened. I flashed back to the shadow I had seen before I fell, and I felt leery of chasing after mysterious lights. So this kind of here. Oh, sorry. So he says lights over there. As a reader, I'm a little confused as to how Ellie's feeling. Is she pulled into the force of the shadow, or now that she's snapped out of its spell, she sees things a little clearly? This is a good opportunity to. It's a good opportunity to establish in the reader's mind what sort of effect the light's shadow have on Ellie. Here it seems as though the mystery has worn off and she just wants to return home. At least that's my impression, but it's a very light and very scant impression. I'm just kind of making it up on the fly. I don't even know if that's the case. If this is the case, write more about it. In other words, feel free to expand. It's a change of heart is what I'm calling it. It's a kind of thing where we had a fairly firmly established drive here, and it changes with the tripping over. I wanted to tell Hugh to stop, but I didn't have much say in the matter as he was carrying me. We passed through a thick forest and soon we came upon a clearing in the forest, so just be careful of repetition of forest. So we passed through thick... I maybe suggest thickets. We passed through thickets and run-on sentence, which I will recommend. Deeper and Deeper We Dove is placeholder, as is all my suggestions. This one especially. Even if you don't like Deeper and Deeper We Dove, which is a bit of a funny turn of phrase, I want more. I want sort of an indication of time passing. Remember up here, he studied me for a moment. He bent down to scoop me up. He'd been carrying me for 15 minutes. So here we have 15 minutes going by in the blink of an eye. Here, I sort of want to get a bit of a sense of passing time, just from having it extended out a little bit. Brush could also be good if you wanted to, like, go through thickets and brush, or you can change it for anything. I like through thickets because it's alliterative. Welcome to Letterford. Is this on the map, you asked? So here's how you change out of a backend into a no dialogue tag. Is this on the map? I fished it out of his back pocket to examine it. So make sure that you don't repeat. Oh, we haven't actually read through this section yet. Why don't we do that? And then we'll come back and edit it. You stood in front of a sign, panting. Is this on the map? I fished it out of his back pocket to examine it. Sweat was running in streaks, saturating corners of my eyes, which blurred the paper. But I was sure there wasn't a town here. No, the nearest town is over 20 miles away. We go back, or see if there's help here? Do you seriously think that there's a doctor here? Well, let's look, and if we don't find any help, we'll go back, he said. I wanted to protest, but with my leg sitting at such a disturbing and painful angle, I decided to take my chances. I think it's a different kind of it. More the... Unless you fish out a giant spider clown monster from his back pocket. I haven't actually seen or read it. One of those things I'm aware of, but not in full knowledge of. Anyway. I didn't see it. I completely glossed over that myself. This can be question mark, that could be comma. That's probably how I change it. Let's change it. Also with this, yeah, we'll come back and suggest things here as well. This is another point in dialogue, and it doesn't involve dialogue tags. It involves something else. We'll come back to that when we deal with it. As we walked into town on broken pavement, we noted the absence of any other people. Nobody was outside, nor were they peering out of their darkened windows at the odd couple walking down the street. The rustic houses all sat at distant, awkward angles, surrounded by animal fences and gardens. They looked like the kind of places I had seen when I was young, visiting with my grandmother on her farm. Still, there wasn't anything resembling an official building in sight, much less a clinic. There's nobody here, Hugh said, stopping to look around. Yeah, I'm not sure if we'll find any help, I said, craning my neck to glance around. I was fighting back tears as the pain in my leg worsened. Maybe we should head back. Hey, Otis called out. Came from the house to the right of us. A man leaned out of a second-level window. Are you guys okay? Oh, so this isn't a ghost town, I thought. Is there a hospital around here? Hugh yelled back. Stay right there, the man shouted, disappearing back into the house. Please, Lord, don't let this guy murder us, I said under my breath. Hugh chuckled. A moment later, the man reappeared at the front door, holding it open and waving us in. Hugh was hesitant. Let's just go in, I really need help, I begged. Hugh resigned and walked up to the door. He sat me down on the sofa in the middle of the unlit living room. The man hurried around the house, flipping the switches in every room. I was able to see him at last as he drifted back in to greet us. He was my age, mid to late 20s, if I had to guess, and looked to have just woken up, dressed only in a pair of trousers, his short brown hair a ruffled mess. The house certainly didn't appear as though it belonged to a guy his age. The place had to be a turn of a century, at least. Or had to be turn of a century, at least. The yellowing wallpaper and cherrywood furniture reminded me of something that might be found in an old saloon, only cleaner, pristinely preserved. He sat down on a footstool in front of me and inquired as to what the trouble seemed to be. Broke my leg. Ah, well, you're in luck. I'm a town doctor, he said, giving me a wink. Put your foot up for me. Put your foot up for me? I heaved it up carefully, taking a deep breath to keep from shrieking. What's a doctor doing living out here? Hugh asked, standing in the corner with his arms crossed. Well, I grew up here. Come back. He stood and headed to the kitchen. When he returned, he had an ice pack for my knee. Let's give that a while to aid the swelling, he said. So what's your name? I asked. I'm Ryan. Ryan Willoughby. I'm Eloise, and that's Hugh, I said, waving a hand at my husband. Ryan held out a hand to him, and Hugh shook it, stone-faced. Ryan went back to the kitchen, offering to brew some coffee while we waited. Ellie, I don't know if I trust this guy, he said, coming to sit down next to me. What kind of doctor treats people in his house? The nice kind? I said, rolling my eyes at him. I wasn't sure if we could trust him either. Truth be told. But what choice did I have? It wasn't like we could hope to bump into a less impeachable physician. Besides, it was pitch black out there. Ooh, okay. That's new. And I didn't know if we could find the car now. I'm just saying he's weird, Hugh whispered, looking over his shoulder, fiddling with the wooden coaster on the coffee table. Ellie, we should at least find somewhere else to stay for the night. And won't stay here. Yeah, I guess, I said, grabbing the coaster out of his hands as Ryan emerged from the kitchen. I'm gonna go change, he said. When I come back down, we'll take a look at that leg again. You need to chill out, I said, looking him in the eyes and listening to make sure Ryan had closed his door upstairs. I'm going to see if there's a hotel we can stay at, Hugh said, rising to his feet. He began to pace across the room. Fine, great. We were silent until Ryan came back down a few minutes later. Hey Ryan, question, Hugh said, leaning against the wall. Is there a hotel we could stay at for the night? Oh sure, there's an inn right down the road. If you go down the street and take a left, it's right there, he said, smiling. Can't miss it. Hugh reciprocated with a wry smirk. Thanks. You're done here, I think we'll head down there, Hugh said, sliding into an armchair by the window. Let's stop there. Why don't we stop there and we'll go back up and do this chunk. Which is another, I'm gonna guess, 690 words. No, I was way off, 937. Oh well, I was close with the prediction of the headphones, so can't get them all right. Let's talk about the dialogue here. I want to address this first. When you have two characters interacting back and forward, you can abandon he said, she said, he said, she said, because we're aware of who starts talking and who goes next, who goes next, who goes next. It's a nice sort of structural thing that's drummed into us from a very early age. What's good to add, however, is body language. I remember editing Nick of Night's story on sort of future dystopia where people could relive their pasts and the main character chose not to. I remember suggesting in that scene with two very important characters, they were talking back and forward, to keep the flow of the narrative going by very occasionally introducing a bit of, I suppose you'd call it like a dialogue breaker almost. But it's something else for the reader to chew at while they're processing the dialogue. So here I'd suggest doing it here. Like you can pick a random spot and wherever makes sense to you, plop in a little bit of body language. I wasn't sure if I was a town here. No, the nearest town is over 20 miles away. Something like that, for instance, is a really quick and cheap and cheerful kind of bit of body language. He'll try and shuffling on the spot. Maybe he's a bit impatient, maybe he's eager to get going, it doesn't really matter. But the long and short of it is that we have something that breaks up the dialogue here. I'll let you choose what you'd like to put in here, Nazguula. If you'd like to have a think about what kind of body language or intent you want to convey here. Also good to maybe put it here. Why is this Yeah, interesting. Well, let's look if we go back. I get rid of the he said. Alternatively, you can put the body language here. I fished it out of his back pocket to examine it. I fished it out of his back pocket and spread the folds over his shoulders, and so that kind of makes sense given that she's on his back. Something like that maybe sort of helps clear up what the image is in a sentence. A good question you don't strictly have to put in there. It's just it's a linker between dialogue and a solution. But that will depend on if you want your narrator, the character, to have this kind of voice within the story. So that's optional, but maybe it's something you'd like to consider. Number two, Regular Shack. Mm. Yeah, that's a really significant thing as well. Um, in addition to having lost the time of day, I'm also not entirely clear as to my impression of where they were is somewhere they started off on a hiking trail. I think they were starting off on a hiking trail. It would be strange for them to wander into a township. I mean, I don't know how Harvard geography works, but maybe my impression of what a hiking trail is it's somewhere fairly remote and it's designed to sort of push people around like a track that's fairly remote from civilization. However, I know that's probably not always the case. Maybe a bit earlier when she is talking about sliding in on the boulder. Here. Great opportunity to extend the scene with one or two sentences of grounding. This would also be a really good point here to tell us what's around them. If it's just countryside for miles and miles and miles, then the reader's going to be a bit confused as to the fact that there's a township 15 minutes walk away. 15 minutes is about a kilometer, which I don't know, it's like 0.6 miles or something. And 723 blurlongs, or I don't know, but it's under a mile. That's for sure. You can walk for a K in about 15 minutes. So what that means is that if she's at the top of a mountain and she's on a boulder, the immediate vicinity is kind of there 15 minutes. So I don't know. Maybe I'm being a bit too sort of anal about this point. But I'm only saying this, I think, because I was surprised that there was a township here, when my impression of the story was that it was taking place in a fairly remote area. I think just you can fix it up here, just by, atmosphere. What's around them important for establishing... kind of a secret. Interesting. So it's sort of like a hidden town then, is what I'm going to interpret. The point is that it's the middle of nowhere. Nice. Okay, well in that case, here you want to establish just how isolated they are. And then when you come here, make them really surprised. You've got the elements of that already, but you need to make it really, like, I think quite stronger in terms of how much attention you pay to those two elements. If you establish in the reader's head very firmly that important for establishing that there is quite literally nothing around. That's important. Here, I'll underline it. And further down, when they finally bump into the town, welcome to Letterford, they need to be really surprised. You can add a bit of like that. Maybe that's one way of doing it. Is just to sort of show that your characters are really unaware that a township is here. You could also give a little description to the sign, like a weathered sign. Like this as well, like if you make the sign a bit weird. I know it's a kind of a strange suggestion, but little things like that can help add to the mystery. Yeah, that's true. Maybe the town is down a slope and the trees conceal it from height, which would make sense logically too. So if that's the case, then you can establish that from having Ellie and Hugh at the top of the mountain, looking around, seeing nothing, and then making them really surprised to find this sign here. Or to find the town itself. Now, little hints here and there that this is unusual could really help your reader to. It softens the idea that this is going to be a bit of a strange town for them. The more strange things that you hint at, the more they're prepared for the strangeness. You don't want to do it too much because that kind of ruins the surprise, but you want to have at least something that's a bit more than. My impression of reading through it the first time right now was that it was just coincidence, and I don't really get much of a sense of it being an unusual event. The only clue that I have is probably the weird shadow, but um, there are lights too, but I didn't really get a sense of what these lights were. There's lights over there. I'd like to know if Ellie sees them too. I'd like some sort of description about these lights. Again, this is the drive that allows your reader to understand why your characters are doing what they're doing. So, I think you need to help us understand that just by expanding. Yeah, just write more. Which is good news because that's a really easy fix. You just go back and you type, put more in. Um, it's kind of like you have the skeleton of a story, and you want to add the flesh above the bones to make it more of a complete monster, rather than I suppose just having little hints here and there. That's what I like to think of as editing. Is you've got the shape of a story, and now it's time to really flesh everything out, so to speak. Yeah. Okay, cool. Nice. If it's a placeholder, have a think about what you can put there instead. Lights, fog, weird sound. Hmm. Yeah, have a think. Have a think about what you'd like to have here. Now, let's go down to I decided to take my chances. Okay. As we walked into town, um, too fast. But that's good, because the fix to this is that you get to write more. Yeah. Good. So, I think this is too fast because we go from Ellie and Hugh come to a sign, they talk to each other about, hey, is this on the map? Where is this? Look, we need to just get to a doctor. We need to do it pretty quickly. And they go, okay, well, look, let's take our chances. The very next sentence and new paragraph then is, okay, now we're walking into town. As a reader, I'm kind of like, whoa, hang on, this is a town. It's not like a homestead. It's not anything else. So, I think a couple of things need to happen here that would really help slow the pace down and give it a more of a sort of structure. So a few things need to happen before we set foot into town. One, what time of day is it? If you start off a paragraph with like the sun dipping down into the forestry and the light kind of failing a little bit, great way to open up a paragraph. Also a good way of showing the passage of time. And it also means that we don't get a nasty surprise later here when it's pitch black. Because I didn't really know that. I thought this was kind of midday. What time of day is it? Good way to start the paragraph. Establish the time. Establish the passage of time between sign and town. 2. What is the first sign of the town? The motion of the scene, like the very first, Ellie and Hugh stepped out of the clearing and into the X. The motion of the scene should take place outside of the town, and we should enter with them. E.g. Hugh, did I say Nick? I meant Hugo. Hugh. Ellie and Hugh, sorry. E.g. Oh, sorry, this is in first person, so, after what felt like hours on foot, we finally found some semblance of civilization. Peeping out between the ever-darkening forests. Came the first sign of life. Something like that, for instance. I won't read it out loud again, but it's sort of like, oh, actually I will. After what felt like hours on foot, we finally found some semblance of civilization. Peeping out between the ever-darkening forest, came the first sign of life, an old derelict house. Then another, and soon we'd entered a clearing that formed the outskirts of some sort of township. That's kind of number 2. We need the first sign of town. Then we walked into town and there's no one else. We noticed the absence of any other people. Nobody was outside, nor were they peering out of their darkened windows at the odd couple walking down the street. I like how you kept the focus on humans. I think that's clever, rather than doing the cliche quote unquote thing of describing the broken windows, the tumbleweed, the dust. Instead, you keep it focused on human beings, and I think that's actually quite clever because it really highlights how deserted it is when you talk about the absence of people. I think that's very clever. Outrider SG, you are a mean friend. Ernest Hemingway, hey, great to meet you. Wait, hang on. Wasn't there an Ernest Hemingway as well? Which one is the real Ernest Hemingsplay? Wonder what Ernst would say. Looks like a little monster out of question marks. I love it. The rustic houses all sat at distant, awkward angles surrounded by animal fences and gardens, so eventually you have to come to sort of describing them. I think that's fine. They looked like the kind of places that I'd seen when I was young, visiting with my grandmother on her farm. Still, there wasn't anything resembling an official building in sight, much less a clinic. This gives me the impression that it's fairly built up and it's not so much like a backwater as it is like a rural township. It's It sounds like it's bigger than it sounds like it's bigger than what a like a hidden little community of 5 families would look like. It sort of reminds me of I don't really know what to compare it against, to be honest. It's like walking out of a forest and into a zone of reality that shouldn't exist. Is that what you're going for? Like a sort of slice of another reality just plonked in the middle of the forest. If that's what you're trying to do, if that's the kind of scene that you want to work for, yes, yes. Okay, great. Well, that's good. Um, because this needs to happen definitely. If you want to build that impression that this is an out of touch area of reality, you need to make the transition between 3. If we're working on a slice of reality that's outside of the real world, like a zone, we just said, there needs to be some sort of sense that there's this line that they cross. That's quite like a bit of a fantasy trope, like the line that you cross between reality and unreality. It's one way to do it. You can also have it like tug emotionally at their hearts. So you need to, or a strong way to accomplish this or achieve this is to have some sort of transition between the worlds. Now, it doesn't have to be like a classic fantasy touch a stone gate and oh, all of a sudden you're in another world. You don't need that. You don't even need like a line that they step across. It needs to be more of a sort of a metaphysical line in a sense. That line has to have some sort of effect on the characters. They need to sense intuitively that they are in a place that is slightly unreal. Now, how would I go about that? Let me vomit some words down. I might be able to have a crack at it. With nowhere else to turn, you and I will. Flaking hard. Excuse me. It's not very poetic English. We're not the pain. Or maybe it was the pain in my leg. Another really good way to do it. Okay. I might wait till Nazguula comes back to just say that point out loud, and I'll keep writing. What felt like hours? Excuse me, past. Only person. Thank you. I was trying to think of a way to like, just instead of saying the sun is high in the sky, I was like, oh, what if it's got a throne? Yes. Feel free to steal that. Yeah, I've been thinking actually of being a writer. Um, I'll consider it. But yes, thank you for the compliment. Lyrebird ego boosting. I'm here for the compliments. Feed me the compliments. I need them. Worth. Um, I don't know if this is proper. It was more a case of ellipsis. It's not. I don't think I like that, but I don't know if you can even do that. Reverse mechanism. Yeah, that's okay. It's a bit better. Reagan and Inboyo. Yes. Can't let that ego get out of hand. In fact, this paragraph can come before or after the sign, and then they could see the sign, and they could walk into town. Um, I'll just wait for Naz to come back, and I'll think of any other improvements. Like, you can use the broken. You can use the broken ankle. Your advantage. Pain. Good. Hello, Nazguula, welcome back. Great, so, good timing. Now, what I was going to suggest is, if you want to have this sign a little further out of a township, and then have a bit of distance between the sign and a town, you can do that. But what I would do with, working on this idea that it's kind of like a hidden, unusual place to visit, here's kind of what I thought of and how it could fit in with this story. I'll read it out. With nowhere else to turn. This kind of takes place after they see the sign, but it could just as easily come before, as Nick walks into the forest having seen the lights and then there's no more lights. With nowhere else to turn, you carried me deeper into the woods. Time began to play tricks on my mind. Maybe it was the searing pain in my leg driving up and down my back that kept me lucid, but I felt my mind slip away in the quiet green of those woods. What felt like hours passed, only for the sun to remain firmly in its high throne in the canopy. My head swam. My throat closed over, so dry. It was only when Hugh stopped for a break that I looked up again and took note of where we were. Nowhere. Nowhere that I recognized. New chill rushed up my back. I hugged my arms around Nick's neck just a little tighter. Where are we going? I think I see something over there. He pointed sharp to his right, and I followed his gaze. What I saw struck a little note of fear between my eyes. It wasn't so much that I wasn't glad to see some form of civilization before me, even if it was only a little rundown shack. So I voiced my concern. It's not supposed to be anything out here for miles. Like, yes. As we approached the shack, the forest around us thinned out, revealing a little clearing down the hill. My heart stuttered a beat to see that strange sight. A little township. All nestled in the bosom of a valley, hemmed in on both sides, rolling down, and just out of sight into a fresh tree line. A little slice of somewhere unknown. Now here you can temper this. You can dial it up and make it a really big town. You can dial it back and make it small and secluded. This, however, acts as your metaphorical line between the real world and the unreal world. How I sought to achieve it was I used her pain as like a catalyst for her unreality. She doesn't have a clear recollection of what exactly happened. Time is playing tricks with her mind. Her head is swimming, her throat's dry, she's in pain, and when she closes her eyes and opens them up again, theoretical sense, she discovers that she's nowhere, and Nick has taken her into this new place. Exactly, yeah. It's like crossing a threshold, but not strictly crossing like a physical threshold. Not like in a what's a good example? Like a bridge to Terabithia sense, or a spirited away sense, or a couple of other examples I can think of. Yeah, so it's more like it's a soft transition, and this is a really useful way to. What does it do exactly? It not only is it a way for you to build up tension for the reveal, which is, oh, there's a town out here, which is pretty interesting. So it does that. It slows the pace down and builds suspense, those two things, but it also helps the reader gauge the authenticity of this experience. And then when you have weird experiences with characters down here, it's foregrounded with the sensation that it's not quite right. Before we just had characters going into the bush, into the forest. Hugo saw the lights. Hugh saw the lights, not Hugo. Hugh saw the lights. And then he saw the sign, and then all of a sudden they're in a town, and then there's a doctor there. Happened a bit too quickly, and me as a reader had no reason to really suspect that this doctor wasn't genuine. But the more weird stuff that you put in there, in a very soft and subtle sense, the more that your reader expects a strange thing to happen when they get into town. Hmm. Sorry, not Hugo. Um, they made him more alert, resistant to whatever. Does he normally? That would be if it was like a That's interesting. I think the fuzziness is metaphorical. It's not so much that like there's this magic barrier around the town. I mean, there could be, but that's quite a good idea if you wanted to have that. Like there's this sort of fuzzy barrier that people who go through lose their sense of perception and time. And you could actually do the inverse of what I suggested here and make it so that her pain grounds her in every moment and she remembers everything very clearly. Unlike Hugh, who was just wandering around aimlessly because he was in this fuzzy zone. Um, Here I've opted for the reverse, where there's no physical fuzzy zone, it's just her and her expectation of events. But that being said, there is still something a bit mysterious about this. This is a little more subtle. The inverse would be more of a, if you had a real reason for the unreality to be more of a solid physical thing. Yeah. Good. I think I'm gonna call it a night there. Let's next stream. Let's dive back into when we see the doctor, and we'll go down from there. I'm really enjoying this story. I think I want to do maybe a little more editing of it. It's quite a long story. I won't get through it all. But I'll probably do Sunday and next Thursday as well. I just feel like there's a lot of good things to talk about and to demonstrate with this edit. I think we can give it a good 3, maybe even 4 sessions, probably 3. We'll see how we go at the end of the third one, and we will go from there. But yeah, thank you, Nazguula, for sharing this story, and I hope it's been useful. 3 streams, yeah, lucky you. But yeah, I hope it's been useful. I think you're off to a great start. You've set up an interesting set of characters. I think they relate fairly well as well in terms of this. Yeah, I think we've established a nice emotional relationship too. I'm eager to see how the death of her daughter impacts us as well further down the track. And I'll have a think as well about other sections, maybe if we need to continue. But yeah, good. I think we're off to a good start. Well, Outrider, some people just get 3, others get 2. I have no real criteria as to who gets like more or less streams. I just sort of I play it a bit by ear. We finished your story too, so also if I do finish a story, then I kind of can't do a third one on it. But yeah, yeah, I'll try to be consistent, but at the same time I'm also flexible. So yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for letting me edit the story too. All thanks go to you. Good stuff. Well, we'll see you guys on Sunday morning, my time, 9 a.m. If you can't make the stream, just watch a replay. If anyone's lurking and you haven't been into my Discord, hop into my Discord. The link is on my homepage for Twitch. Homepage where you find me. Click on click on the Discord banner and you'll find me. Good. I'm more than happy to do that. Oh, Emma the Ruthless, hi and bye. Hello. I didn't realize you were tuning in. Thank you for joining in. Adios. Okay. Alright. We'll catch you all on Sunday. Thanks for joining in. And I really hope you can still hear me. But you just haven't been somehow lip reading me very well. I can't hear myself. Alright. Bye bye.